Hello.
Hello,
Hi,
everybody.
everybody. Hello, everybody. We're back. We're back after our hiatus. We took some time off and we decided that we were going to regroup and we were going to redo the focus of the pod. And today is episode 1 of the facelifted, redone pod. And we already got a confirmation on our guest for next week, but I don't want to jump the gun on that because it's a big one, you guys. It's a
Yep,
big one, and it's
it's
one
a big
you
one.
guys. It's one you guys aren't going to want to miss. An actual celebrity, not a YouTuber, but a real celebrity. So, with that said, today we are going to be talking to Scott Bullock. Scott Bullock is a longtime subscriber of mine, who goes by Antivera Charles 50 in chat. You've probably seen him a lot. And I did not know until he reached out to me that he has been a voice actor for many, many, many years. And I think that that's amazing, right? And so he's been a voice actor in a lot of animations. So we're going to talk to him. Now, I don't know anything about any of these animations. I've never seen the animations he's worked on. But Negz has, and the kid has. So these guys are the experts, but we're also going to talk a lot about the business of voice acting, how you get into it, what's involved in it. Because we were just talking about it the other day, right, Negs? We were talking
Uh-huh.
about The Simpsons and about, like, you know,
I had
or
mentioned that I've been wanting to do some voice work
right.
on some different projects because I would like to take that's what's been nice about doing a podcast with no camera is I
Hmm.
kind of just want to be the voice. So, and I'm always doing impressions and whatnot. So,
Hmm. Well, let's bring in Scott. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
absolutely, yes.
Excellent. Well, first of all, I want to start right off by taking umbrage.
Uh-oh.
Next guest is a celebrity.
Well, you
Oh,
are
Next
too.
guest, next guest is somebody famous that you'll all want to listen to.
No, the next one is very notorious.
Okay,
I,
okay.
I'll
The
tell
next one,
you. I'll tell you.
I'm deeply hurt. I'm
Well,
deeply hurt
you know
already
what?
with.
Okay, well, this is what I'm going to do for you. I am going to email you the name of the guest, and when you see the name of the guest, you will understand why I phrased it in that particular way.
Oh, okay, all right.
Nothing personal.
You may even have met this guest, but you certainly
Oh,
will know. You will know. Let me put it this way: you may not know the guest by name, you may not know the guest by face, but you will definitely know the guest by the profession.
oh, okay. Boy, this is a. Now I'm going to tune in next time.
Listen, I am so pleased that we are finally all getting a chance to chat because, for those of you who don't know, Auntie Vera or Scott has been a subscriber of mine for a long time.
A
Okay,
long,
long
long,
time,
long time.
and
Yes.
I did not know that Scott was this illustrious celebrity
Thank you.
until he blew the whistle on himself. And so I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, you never know who's watching you. And so it's really cool when somebody's watching you who does something so interesting for a living. And this is exactly the kind of person we've been looking for to bring on the podcast, people from a wide variety of fields.
Yep.
So let me start off by asking you this. Okay, so how did you enter the world of voiceovers? Did you do radio? How did you start off in this field?
I am an actor and
Mm-hmm.
have been an actor since junior high school and pursued it with not nearly the amount of fervor with which I should. Basically, I am a lazy sloth and I probably could have been, 20, $30 million a picture had I had a lot of go-gettedness.
Okay.
I got no go-gettedness. I'm a lazy sloth. So I started as an actor and I was doing I got a commercial agent and did a lot of on-camera commercials. I had a theatrical agent for a while and did a couple of movies and TV. And I hated costume fittings with everything in me
Mm-hmm.
because I was always either too fat or too skinny, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't stand the makeup and the whole thing. And I never thought about voice, even though as a little kid, I built a mini radio station in the I was in the closet. Yes, thank you. I was in the closet of my bedroom and I built a little mini radio station and broadcast to the living room. And my mother would listen to the little radio that I hooked up that I was broadcast. My mother was very dear, still is, pain in the ass. And she would listen as she was vacuuming, cleaning, 1960s housewife, listening to me broadcast. Even though I did that, I had no idea that I wanted to do voice stuff. So I got this commercial agent. I started doing this. I was doing other things. And suddenly I auditioned for a cartoon. I got the cartoon. I started doing voiceover commercials. Basically, long-winded answer to your simple question, I fell into it. I fell into voiceover. My husband of 39 years was an agent for a while after I met him. We met long before either one of us were in the business. And he was my agent for a while. And so it's kind of was because jokingly I said I'm a lazy sloth. The truth is I am a lazy sloth. And so I always kind of went where they pushed me. Even though I wanted other things, I would go, okay, they want me to go there, I'll go there. So that's how I ended up in voiceover.
So how is the audition process for a role in voiceovers different from the audition process for a live action movie or a TV show?
When you audition for something where people are going to see you, obviously your look is very important to them. Oftentimes, I never did, but oftentimes people will actually dress for the role. They'll go out and they'll get, if it's a dowdy country farmer, they'll go out and get overalls and go into the audition. I was always embarrassed to do that kind of stuff. But
that's my wardrobe.
Yeah, well, mine now are I'm dressed for you guys. This shirt is much more than I would normally wear, and it's an ugly.
Well, thank you.
Is everyone seeing us, by the way, as well as hearing us?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's frightening. Hi, everyone. So I'm dressed for you. What was I saying? Dressing for the audition. When I found out did I go off on a tangent somewhere? I'm old and I used to drink and
no, you're.
So I forget.
You're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
I forget things. What was the question?
Oh, the difference between auditioning for a live action role as opposed to a voice role.
When you audition for voice, you have a piece, you have copy, and you have a microphone like the one in front of me here, and you're in a booth. And as long as you don't stink, like if you make sure that you shower and don't eat garlic, you don't have to worry about much else. And that once again, that fits right into the lazy sloth aspect of my personality. I would just get up and shower if I felt like it. I would get up and shower and then go do the audition, stand in the room, read the copy, and that process was simpler in that sense, but emotionally and rejection wise and all those things, it's exactly the same because people are sitting behind a glass panel in the studio part of the studio, in the engineering portion, and they're sitting back there looking at you and judging you, and then and so they won't have the talk back on, so you can't hear what they're saying, and they're talking with great animation, and you're thinking, God, they're talking about me. I hope they're talking good things about me. And you find out that they were ordering lunch basically while you're sitting back there doing your thing. And yeah, so that's the basic difference is you don't have to worry about how you look.
Hey, that's right up my alley.
I tend to have long-winded answers. I'm sorry for that.
Last night, Negz and I started watching The Wire, which he's never seen, and I told him that one of my oldest friends, somebody I went to high school and college with, was one of the actors on The Wire. And he was one of these actors who he did really well, sort of, in that he got really good roles on prestigious television shows and in movies, but the work was it wasn't consistent. Right. So he got to a point, and let's face it, he got to an age where it was getting harder and harder and harder for him to find roles in movies and on television. So he started doing voiceover work, and he's found that the voiceover work has been the most consistent work. It pays well, and it is consistent, and so that has managed to keep him afloat. Because I think that he stopped auditioning a long time ago, and it was a combination. It was his race, it was his age, it was his very unusual not unusual like weird, but he has a very unique appearance that it doesn't lend itself to the typical sort of Hollywood kind of role. But
Right.
basically, he aged out of live action roles. And so it can be a fantastic way to make a living for people who don't want to be under the pressure to look that in that Hollywood way,
Yes.
and who are facing the issue of aging out of a profession also.
Yes, there is lesser amount of judgment of your appearance. However, if you are a beautiful blonde with big boobies, you tend, and never in my category, mind you, although I do have big boobies, but that's another story altogether. That's another story. The I'm sorry. The medication will
okay.
kick in
Hey,
just a
maybe we
little.
need to work on the presentation. You know,
Yeah,
maybe that'll help.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think so. A bigger cup. I found that the buxom blondes got a lot of the female roles in the things that I was doing, and the very talented ladies. So it crosses over. It crosses
Mhm.
over into because people are people,
Right.
regardless of what they do. And this is I've found this as a 66-year-old fart in watching everybody and watching people and observing life in itself, is that we are all exactly the same. We have the same fears and the same hopes and the same desires and we all have them. It's just the way we handle them is very different. The way we deal with them is very different. And sometimes it's destructive, but sometimes it's positive. So even though you're getting into places of 20-30 million dollars you're making for a movie, if you're starring in it, you're still the same person you should forgive the vulgarity, who sits on the crapper and has a splatter poop once in a while. It doesn't change because you make $40 million a picture. We're all the same. And that's even down to my level of working, where you will find that the foibles of humans, the foibles of people, exist in this business everywhere.
Right.
And
See,
that's my philosophical point for the day.
I was told if I made it in Hollywood, my my poop would be gold plated.
Yeah,
So I've been
well,
lied. I've been lied
that does
to.
happen. That does happen, but you have to eat gold leaf.
There you
Oh, I'm
go.
good.
You get that at craft stores, and
Can't
then
even eat
all of
corn
it.
without dying, so I'm good.
It's true, and glitter. Sometimes you
And
know
glitter.
there actually was for a while, and I am not kidding you. This has nothing to do with voiceover.
Mhm.
There was a capsule you could take that was full of glitter, so that when you pooped, your poop
Yeah.
had glitter in it.
You're a
I've seen
lie.
those. No,
You're a
I've
lie.
seen them.
Both of you are lying. I don't believe you.
It's true. It's true. I
It's-
mean,
but-
you know.
It's one of those Hollywood perks, man.
Uh-huh.
I was right
Mm.
there, you know. I was right there on the cusp of LA,
So
so I got a
close.
couple tablets.
So close.
So let me ask you this. So when you get a script for
Yes.
an animation, and I mean, all it is, do you get a storyboard as well, or do you just get a script? How is it that you come up with a unique voice for an animated character?
Most of the time, for an audition, for example, you will go in with the troupe of people that are going in to read with you for the entire day.
Mhm.
And on the table, there'll be your sides. They're called sides, and what they are is basically your lines that they want to audition you with. And oftentimes you will get a Xerox copy of the character, so you can see what the character looks like.
Okay.
Sometimes there's a character description also. And so you have a couple of minutes to sit there, and you don't have to. That's another great thing about voiceover that I love, is that you do not have to memorize. A little tangent, and I'll go back to your question. I did a movie directed by Albert Brooks, and I auditioned for him, and he loved me, and I memorized this because I wanted to be perfect. I wanted to be absolutely perfect, and I memorized this script, and I had everything. I memorized the lady who was playing opposite me. I memorized everything, and I went in, and in the makeup chair for the shoot in the morning, Albert Brooks came into the makeup room and handed me a legal pad where he had completely, for about 5 pages of legal, had completely changed the script. Can you look at this and do this, and literally going in front of the camera in about 15 minutes. I'm sitting there panicked, absolutely panicked. The lady who is playing my wife is sitting next to me, and she has also a legal pad with her changes on it. And I looked over at her. I needed some commiseration, please. I said, "Can you believe we have to?" She said, "I have no problem memorizing lines." I swear to God, I wanted to take this little scissors and stick them right in her neck. I have no problem memorizing lines.
Well, good for you, lady.
You.
So did you break out in a flop sweat the way Albert Brooks did in broadcast news?
I know. God, was that not wonderful? No, luckily, I don't know how. Once again, I think adrenaline kicks in, and you lift the car off your child with the
Right.
superpowers. You know, I don't know how I did it, but I did it, and I did it well. And yeah, it was. Oh, so back to your question, you're. Haven't done this in a while. The interview thing is new to me. So you get the sides, you get the picture of your character, and then you go in and you try. And they'll sit on the other side of the glass. On your side of the glass is the microphone and the glass and the people behind it. And then they'll sit there and they'll listen to you. And sometimes they'll direct you. Could you try it this way? Could you try it that way? Could you try it a little slower? Could you try it a little faster? Especially with commercials. That's when you get the faster, slower.
Right.
And they give you direction, and then you take the direction and you do it. And sometimes you get the part. Most times you do not, but you keep plugging away.
So you just for the audience sake, you've I hope I have this correct. You played Eddie in Barnyard.
Yes, in the what's it, the movie? The movie.
The movie, yeah. I
Yes.
have the Joyride scene pulled up. That's what I referenced earlier.
Yeah, he was kind of Joe Pesci kind of character, wasn't he? hey, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful experience, because I was working with 2 insanely funny guys, and we would just sit and play, and they very rare they just let us go. They kept the we used to call it the black shit back in the days when they had tape, and they actually recorded on black tape. So they would let the black shit roll, and we would just go crazy and have a great time, and then they used it, and it turned out good. I mean, I think it was funny.
I believe I've taken my kids to see Barnyard when they were younger. What year did that come out? I'm not exactly sure.
Here's the thing that I will set up right up front, Negz. I don't remember shit.
Right.
I don't remember. I don't remember dates. I don't remember. I have to depend on my husband. I turn to him every conversation. When was that? What day was that? Did we do that last? And he has a little pad. He takes out his little pad, his mental pad, and tells me everything. So I'm not sure what year that was. I just know it was a long time ago.
And you've also done the Marvelous Adventures of
The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack.
Yes, I love that cartoon. I've watched it in certain states of mind, and also
that it lends itself to that.
It does. Yeah. And Jimmy Neutron.
Yes, I was King Goobot, and then Patrick Stewart stole my role for the movie.
The nerve.
They very, very often do that, which is one of the banes of the non-superstar people in voice work. Non-Jim Carreys and non-Patrick Stewart's, is if they decide to make a movie, they'll very often recast with a celebrity just to get the name. And while Patrick Stewart is a very incredibly dear, wonderful, fantastic man, the son of a bitch took my role for the movie.
Just for the movie.
But yes,
you did the shows though.
Yes, and I
think it's fantastic.
That was you're pulling up some really nice experiences, because there are some shitty ones too, but those were some fun times with the if I recall
didn't he sound something, King Goobot? Didn't he sound something like this? I don't remember for sure. Jimmy Neutron.
Something like that.
Yeah, that takes me way back to when the kids were little. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I looked for where you had done a lot of episodes or the movie. That I pulled up the clip from the movie. It just sounded fun. Like the joyride scene just sounded like everybody was having a riot.
Yeah, we were. And a lot of times when you hear things that sound like they really were fun, they really weren't.
Exactly. Yeah.
This was an example of when it was fun, but a lot of times, especially if it's super high energy, when you've done it for the 14th, 15th time, it can really tear your throat up and tear your life away, and you think to yourself, what is the meaning of all this, and why Lord, why?
Right.
And I'm an atheist, so calling out to the Lord, I'm really, I'm down at the bottom.
It's getting bad.
Also, if anytime you'll see the work that I've done on, I don't know what they call them, computer games, video games. What are the interactive games? There's all these names for them. Those are the most painfully tedious, awful jobs, except for the paycheck.
Really?
Why?
What makes them different?
You will get, and I kid you not, you will get a notebook that's this thick.
Stop it.
I'm not kidding you. You'll get a notebook that is this thick, and in it are one line after another, page, but they're not, it's not like a script. Wait, I'm hit, I'm down. What?
Yep.
I'm hit, I'm down. And you have to do it now. Okay, now you're hit by a cannonball. Now you're hit by a shotgun. Now you're hit by a slap from a lady. Now you're hit by, and you have to do that. I'm hit every single different way. 50, 60 times, and you have turned one page of that book that they've handed you.
Oh no.
Yeah. So interactive is hell, especially if it's action interactive. I'm going to take a sip because I'm so tired.
Are you parched?
Parched and fatigued.
So Scott, you did the Barnyard video game too, right?
I think so. Yes. Once again, Drew isn't here, so I can't say, did I do the Barnyard? I think I did. Yes.
You probably aren't aware. There is a whole YouTube video of every line you said in that video game. I found it earlier.
No,
I played it. It's like 6 minutes of every line, you could tell, because when you were talking about the notebook and reading from it, that basically will display that.
Yes. Anytime you voice a video game, it's just repetition, and you're alone. You're literally alone in the room. You're not interacting with your other actors. There's different ways that they do animation where sometimes you will literally be in a room by yourself doing the lines, even though you're interacting with people. My favorite was when they would get the cast all together. Sometimes we'd have little separations so the sound didn't bleed into one another. We'd have little separating panels, but we'd be in a big room and everybody would have a microphone in front of them and we would all be able to interact together. That gets the best performance. That is the most fun. That's the most creative process. But with interactive, it's just you're alone with that damn book, looking at and thinking to yourself, is it gonna be the day after tomorrow when I turn the final page of this?
How long does something like that take to record?
Depending on the size of your part, which is not the first time I've said that. Listen, it doesn't have to be large. It just has to be functional, especially at my age. When depending upon the size of your part, it can be a day or it can be 5 days, where you go back for a 4-hour session for 5 days in a row. And that book those pages just never get any lower. But once again, I started to change my attitude a bit when I was looking at it as opposed to what I could be doing in order to make a living. And then you want to slap yourself in the face whenever you complain, because there are people in this world that work hard and dig holes in the ground so that our poop can flow. This is a poop theme today.
It sure is.
If our poop can flow to the facilities where, they dig those trenches and they do that, where that's work. That is work. Doing silly voices. Yeah, there's strain. Yeah, there's effort. Yeah, the I would say that the hardest part of acting, the hardest part of show business, of being an actor, is getting the job.
Yeah.
That is where the work is. The work, because it's emotionally miserable, and it's I give it an idea for you to think of, not you particular, but you in general, to think of. Imagine going on a job interview 3 times, 4 times a day, every day, because that's what it is. And everybody knows what a job interview is like, and they suck.
Yeah.
They strain you emotionally, and they strain you mentally, and you don't like them. If you get the job, it's wonderful. But think about doing that 3 and 4 times a day, every single working day. And that's what it is to be an actor, not a celebrity, not a Tom Cruise, but to be a working actor. You're doing that every single day.
That's a lot.
Yes.
That's a lot. That's got to be defeating too, because you're going to hear a lot of no's.
Oh, yes. When I started, I had not really a mentor, because he was an asshole. So I don't know, somebody who gave me advice. See, I have to invent a new word. A mentor who's an asshole, who said, you're going to audition 30 times and get 1 every 30. So
Right.
expect that. Get 1 every 30. And that's good, getting 1 every 30. I beat that a little bit, but I still, I got so many more no's than yeses in all forms, especially dating. Don't ask.
Well, oh my God, no, not a boys in the band.
My boys in the band, Mary, don't ask.
Mary, don't ask.
Mary, it takes the fairy. Oh, Mary, it takes
Oh,
the
Mary,
fairy to
don't
make
ask.
something pretty, don't ask. Who do you have to fuck to get a drink
Around here.
Turning.
Turning. I have a boys in the band shower curtain in my downstairs bathroom at my home in Washington, and the real estate agent told me that I have to take it down. So I fired the real estate agent.
Good for you.
Yeah. Not only for that reason, but for many others. But how dare
that's a
you?
good enough reason. Yes, and you must know that you both were still in diapers the first time I saw Boys in the Band. I saw it in the theater, and it was life-changing. It was absolutely life-changing for me.
It was life-changing for me, and I'm not a gay man, so
yeah.
So tell me this. So this is a weird way to frame a question, but it just occurred to me. So I watched an episode of Intervention with this guy who was a voice actor, and he would constantly break into character, and a lot of that was because he was addicted to drugs, and I think he was drinking heavily also. Is this something that you ever did in your drinking days, for example?
Break into character. You know what they call that when you are making your living this way? They call that lobby.
Oh, okay.
And what lobby means is that you're performing your stuff in the lobby so that you'll get noticed, you'll make the other people upset, you'll do your shit instead of saving it for the audition. Breaking it, I have done funny voices, but funny characters more. All right, I want to step back for just a second, because I really want to clarify something here. Clarify. See what I did there?
I did see what you did there.
I don't want to be negative, but I'll clarify. I am an actor. Now, I have made most of my money and most of my career voice acting, but I'm a trained actor. I was trained by one of the greatest teachers that ever lived and who became a wonderful friend, Charles Nelson Riley, who was...
Charles Nelson Riley?
Yes.
Get out of here.
I am not kidding you. He's the greatest teacher of every teacher I've ever had in my life, regardless of subject or anything. And he became a dear, precious, precious friend. And I feel his loss to this second that I'm speaking to you. I feel it. So I was trained by him. He was an unbelievable acting teacher. I was trained by a man. I don't want this to sound like horn tooting, but I just want to say that I'm not talking out my ass is what I think I'm trying to say here. I was trained by Vincent Dowling from the Abbey Theatre in Ireland. I'm an actor, and I adore the craft of acting. What I despise is show business.
Right.
I love acting, but I hate show business. And the voice. So what my point was, believe it or not, I have one, is that I fell into voice work. And because, as I said earlier, because I tend to go the easy road, I stayed with voice work, and that's where I made most of my money and did most of my work in voice work. But voice work requires acting. A lot of people don't understand that. I remember watching Michael Caine as he was talking. He was telling his students that when the camera is on you, you don't need to do anything but shift your eyes to the right. And that conveys something because the camera is very close and they can see that movement of your eyes. When you're voice acting, you don't have your eyes, you don't have your body, you don't have anything but the sound of your voice. That's all you've got. So you have to learn how to convey so much with just the inflections of your voice, the tonality of your voice, the volume of your voice. That's a skill. And it's not something that people are naturally born with, because we are born with a whole body. Most of us, if we're fortunate, are born with a whole body where we use our hands and we use our heads and our eyes and our face and everything. You don't get to do that as a voice actor. So it takes a skill, it takes an ability, and it isn't second class to on-camera acting. It's a totally different kind of acting, but it's still acting. And I am now stepping off my soapbox, so I may look a little shorter.
Well, I've had a great deal of respect for voice actors, because for what you've said, you aren't seen, so you have to convey through. You have to act. And I know that Kevin Conroy, he's one that comes to mind. He was a legend. I believe that he just passed away recently.
The Batman voice. What oftentimes, not to interrupt, but to interrupt, oftentimes people will say, this big voiceover star, so and so and so and so, and I've never heard of them, which doesn't mean they aren't a big star. It just means that I haven't heard of them. And Kevin was one that I hadn't heard of, but apparently he had some big fame, especially with the Batman situation.
Yeah, he did. There was a huge fandom around him because when there was a lot of tributes when he passed away. I don't know if it was unexpected or what. I think it may have been cancer. Doesn't matter. But he was a legend. He had done the voice of Batman in these series, I believe, for 20 plus years. So it's very his voice was that Batman.
Yeah. And I never worked on Batman, so I didn't meet him.
And Mark Hamill too, but he's also known for Star Wars, so he's got that little credit there. So.
Yes, he's a very nice man.
Is he?
Yes, Mark Hamill's a very nice man.
Yeah,
should I not drop any more names?
You could drop all you want. I mean,
no. I've worked with some wonderful people. I've had an opportunity to meet some of my heroes, which I think of all the things that I've done, meeting the people that I grew up loving, respecting, to have an opportunity to sit as an equal in the sense that you are both working on a project together was an amazing gift from the universe. I often would sit in a situation and say, Scott, do you realize who's sitting right across from you as you're reading this? It's Dick Van Dyke. It's Rose Marie. It's the people that I grew up stunned and loving, and who made me want to pursue show business, acting. These people, and I got an opportunity to work with these wonderful people and to meet them. And that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. That would be awesome. Who would you say the primary inspiration was to get you into acting to begin with?
My enormous ego needing to be stroked, and a
Well,
desperate.
then you picked the wrong profession
Absolutely.
with a 99% unemployment rate. But okay.
I know. A very quick story that I saw on a YouTube video. Dustin Hoffman was talking in the interview where they do for the Actors Studio, and I can't remember the guy's name, James something.
James Lipton.
Anyway, there we go. James Lipton was interviewing Dustin Hoffman, and Dustin Hoffman was relating the story where he was sitting across a table at dinner after several glasses of wine with Laurence Olivier, and he said to Laurence, "Why do we do this? Why do we act? Why? What is the reason?" And Hoffman said that Olivier stood up, leaned across the table, and got this far away from Hoffman's face and said, "Look at me, look 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 at me." And that's the truth.
Right.
That is the truth. That regardless of anybody telling you that there's this noble, lofting, wonderful reason of why they want to create as an actor, there may be some of that in there, because I love the craft. I truly love the craft of acting. It is a craft. It's an art. It's oil painting on a stage. It's real. But the reason that we get into it, and the majority of the people, 99 in my humble opinion, 99% of the people are in it because they need to be looked at. They need that attention. They need that attention. That's why the older I'm getting, the less I'm acting, because I really don't need that anymore. I was desperate for that. And I think, to answer long-windedly again your question, Negz, I got into it initially because I wanted the attention. I wanted to be looked at. I wanted to be noticed. I also wanted to be a superstar, a super movie star, because I had a concept of what that was like. Little did I know what it's really like to be a movie star. Not that I am, but I know people who are. It ain't pretty. It really isn't a pretty situation. But I think it's ego. I think it's ego driven. And then you stay in it. You stay there because of the love of the craft. I think that's why you stay. Because otherwise you realize that the ego stroking it comes at too high a price. You get too many. No, get the fuck out of here. You're not right. You're not physically right. You're not right. You're not right. You're not right. That wears on that ego.
So what are the downsides of being a movie star?
Holy shit. Well, you have almost no life except for being a movie star. All of the things that we take for granted as people that don't get mobbed and on the street, you can't do it. You cannot do it. You can't do what everybody else does. You can't walk outside to go get the newspaper. You can't decide to run to the store real quick to get something. You can't take your kid to Disneyland. You can't do all kinds of things because of the notoriety. Then you have to be constantly concerned about the business and what the business values. The business values youth. The business value. That's why these actresses that look like they're going to have to unbutton their collar to pee because they're pulled so tight. They got and they think it looks good.
I know, right?
I do not. And my precious husband, who is so wise, I don't know how wise he is because he's been with me 39 years, but so I question his wisdom. But my husband, who's so wise, who says that it's because they're surrounded by yes people.
Exactly. Yes.
That's another thing with movie stars, and what's hard about being a movie. You are surrounded by nobody that will give you the truth unless you're extraordinarily lucky. And you end up looking like Madonna looks right now.
Right.
Who the fuck told her that looks good? I don't know what this has to do with voiceover, but I'm telling you something.
Well, seriously, one of the most sad stories about somebody surrounded by yes people was probably Michael Jackson. Yeah. And it's not just the thing with the kids. It was also the fact that a man who owned the Beatles catalog and had recorded Thriller and had the songwriting credits on Thriller, died hundreds of millions of dollars in debt.
Yeah.
And that was because all of the reasonable people that he had around him who were watching out for him got fired because he didn't want to hear the word no. So that's how you end up in that predicament.
Yes. And I my problem is I'm surrounded by no people. So I would like a couple of yes men. You know what I'm saying? All I got is no, Scott. No, Scott. I would rethink it, especially like I said, my husband. No, Scott, rethink that one. Yeah.
So
Deadly pause.
in
Dead air.
No dead air. I'm no, absolutely not. I am allergic to dead air.
Okay.
So in the voiceover acting world, do you find that there are directors that are sort of like, I mean, you know that there are notorious directors and record producers who do like 1,000 takes of the same thing.
Oh.
You know, are there any like Stanley Kubrick types in the voiceover directing world?
For obvious reasons, I cannot name names.
Right.
Except I can name one that's dead.
Okay.
That's fair.
Uh-huh.
But it will be a name that will mean nothing to anyone. There was a director. I did a show called Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Really? You did that too? Wow.
It was a cartoon show, not the
Yes,
movie.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yes, I did that. And it was directed by a man named Stu Rosen.
Mm-hmm.
And Stu Rosen there was a program when, once again, you two were in diapers, called Dusty's Treehouse, which was a kid's show. And Stu was the star of that kid's show. He was Dusty in his treehouse, and he had little puppets and animals and all kinds of stuff, which I suspect he was fucking after the show was over. But anyway, Stu was an interesting fellow. He directed Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. And one of the things that he would do, and also another reason why I didn't end up making $20 million and being a superstar, is because my mouth always got me in trouble because I always said what I thought, which is never a good idea.
Negz and I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yes, especially in show business.
We are the souls of discretion and professionalism,
Yeah,
Negz and I.
absolutely. Yes, I know. I understand. Believe me, I watch. I've seen a few, which we'll talk about when I call you. But Stu would do things like, okay, everybody, I want you to all stand up and I want you to walk in a circle and get your energy up before we start recording. And I would say to Stu, no, my energy's up. I'm fine. I need to sit here with my up energy, and they'll do their little circles. And Stu would do, if God forbid you were having fun and laughing a little bit between takes, Stu would literally say, I have to separate you two.
Oh, no. Oh,
I
no.
have to separate you two.
Stop
You
it.
sit over there. I swear, we're adult. I mean, we are adult people. And this fat little interesting fellow would separate us. So, and then there was another director who gave me my start, and for that I will love him forever, who would make you, until you figured this out, who would make you do take after take after take. And this is animation. This isn't those god-awful interactive games. This is animation with other actors and a story. We would take after take, and he would give you line readings, which is sinful. Line reading after line reading after line reading. And what you eventually figured out with this particular director is you do it a couple of times, then he'll give you a line reading, and then imitate him exactly, and you'll move on. So basically you learn these things about directors. There are idiot, fool, motherfucker directors. Trust
Puppet
me.
fuckers.
And puppet. Hi, I'm
If you will.
puppet fucker. Yeah, really. I'm gonna get a T-shirt. I'm a puppet fucker.
Merch, Negz, merch.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but there are angels. There are people that really love again, the creative process, who trust themselves enough to trust you to do what you do best. The greatest people who work together are the ones that allow someone to rise to their game, not to try to take the credit or pull the focus. It's always collaborative, and it's always something that makes the product better, and that's what we all strive for.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So yes, Mrs. Negz, there are asshole directors.
Mm. Yeah, I'll bet.
I can't wait to be one.
Yeah, well, you got to get the right T-shirt though, Negz.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what, it says puppet fucker?
That's it. Puppet fucker, and I shit glitter.
I shit glitter because
right.
I'm a puppet fucker.
Right. I am so embarrassed. When you said Charles Nelson Riley was your teacher, my only exposure to him, I did not know that he was a coach and a teacher. I only used to watch him on the game shows in the 1970s.
You are not alone.
Where he was super camp. He was like another Paul Lynde.
Yeah.
You know, and I had no idea that he was revered in the industry. I had no clue.
You are not alone, my love. You are absolutely, that is what people believe. As it is a matter of fact, in his one-man show that if you have not seen, you must see. It's called Save It for the Stage, and it's his one-man show. So once again, the thought of him moves my heart. That's how much he mattered and matters to me.
Mm-hmm.
In his show, one of the lines of his one-man show is, "What did you think it was going to be about? Game shows?"
Oh God, he was so camp. I absolutely loved him.
He was, and here's an example. That's what made him money.
Mm-hmm.
That persona, that silliness, that he was, without a doubt. I have two of the funniest people I've ever known in my life that are were just funny. They all they had to do was walk into a room and you would laugh from how hysterically funny they were. Charles Nelson Riley and an actress named April Winchell, Paul Winchell's daughter, April, who is a dear friend of mine. Two of the funniest human beings I've ever known in my life. Charles, Drew and I were sitting at his house one night, and he wanted to show us something. He all at home. He always wore a big gigantic caftan.
Of course he did.
Yes. And slippers that he had stepped on the heels of so that he could slip into them. He didn't buy the slippers that were, you slide into slippers. He bought regular slippers, but then crushed the back where the heel is so that he could slide in. So he wants to show us something, and his husband is off somewhere, and Patrick has put it somewhere. And Drew and I are sitting so that what we can see is the opening archway, which is open to a hallway. And Drew and I are sitting in this gigantic room with all of his memorabilia all around, and all we can hear is Charles going, "I know it's somewhere. It's got to be somewhere. It's the Patrick. Goddamn Patrick put it. Patrick somewhere." And you would see him because he's shuffling in the slippers to keep them from falling off in a caftan, and he's 6'2", so he's giant, shuffling through the opening in the archway. Patrick's guy, I know he's got, and then his voice would fade, and then pretty soon we go, "I know that Patrick put it somewhere. I gotta get it because I gotta show me." And he's not trying to be funny, but we were peeing our pants. He was and one of my goals in life truly is to tell the world what this man was, because everybody, rightly so, it's not wrong that everybody thinks this. Everybody thinks that he's Brett Summers on Match Game, with Brett fighting back and forth with Brett Summers, and that's who he was. The man directed opera, hugely, massively successful opera. He directed. His students are stars, and down to people like me. He was a remarkable angel of this planet. And yeah, I loved him.
It's really funny talking to you because I have been trying to explain to Negz how I have this really weird sort of I've kind of got I'm of two minds about LA. I loathe LA and I love it at the same time. I absolutely hate it for all the reasons that one might expect. The traffic, the phoniness, the emphasis on youth and money, and all that. But what I love about LA is that it's full of people who are just like you, incredibly talented, incredibly funny. I have never seen talent like this. I mean, I was in Hollywood on Halloween in like 2001. And when I saw what all these incredible costume designers and makeup artists put together for the Halloween parade, basically, in West Hollywood.
Yes.
And there was a guy who had disguised himself as the closing scene of the movie Carrie. And he had built a stage around himself.
Yeah.
He had the nightgown on, the wig, the blood all the way down. And he had the bucket suspended over his head.
Yeah,
and I'm looking at this thing and I thought, how many hours did it take to put that together? This is phenomenal. And for every costume like that, every other one, I mean, you had like all these or these men who were dressed like Cruella de Vil with the puppies and all that. But it's just a Halloween night parade, which in any other city would be like whatever. Either the streets would be empty or you'd have some whatever thing. But in Hollywood, you have so many talented, creative people.
Oh,
and
Mary, it takes the fairy to make something pretty.
Now I'm sad. That's a very sad scene.
Yes, it is.
But it's amazing. And this is what I tell Negz. Like, yeah, LA is horrible on so many different levels. There's so much that you can hate about it. But then you find people who are so, so good at what they do. From editing to directing to costume design to makeup to acting to singing to whatever. And you kind of get distracted by the people who make it. And you get bitter because they've made it and you think, what do they have that I don't have? But then you meet all these other people and they're amazing and they're funny and witty and great writers and have all these talents, You
will find that the loudest voices belong to the assholes. The true talents don't need to announce it. The true talents just need to do what they do. And I agree completely. Drew and I talk all the time. If we could just lift, because we love our home, we love our house, we love our home. If we could just lift it up and put it in Northern California among the redwoods, we would be blissful. But first of all, we had to stay here because of the business in the beginning. And now we have established roots that we love. We live in Woodland Hills, which is in San Fernando Valley, a suburb of LA. And we hate everything about LA that anybody with a right mind would. You can't look at taking 4 hours to get one off ramp on the freeway, or people that tell you one thing and then turn around and say the exact opposite to somebody. You'd have to be blind not to see that shit. So yeah, it's an ugly place that has beautiful little things about it. And what I try to do, and I would love to get back to voiceover because I know that's why you have me here. But what I like to do is I try my best to make my little whatever I'm circling the best it can be, to be nice to everybody and to try to make, because I know I can't do anything out there. I cannot change out there, but I can change wherever I am at any moment. I can change that immediate surrounding by being the way that I would want to be and that I would want people to be around me. That's what I try to do. And I tried to do that in the business as well. It's not easy. What I found in the business is that the more you keep to yourself, the better in one way, but the worse in another way, because I want to give you an example of voiceover. I have a, what do I call him? I guess a coworker. I would say a coworker who when if we're sitting in an audition room and a producer from wherever walks in, I'll look up at the producer and I'll think that guy looks vaguely familiar to me because I have an incredible memory for faces and none for names.
Mhm.
I'll think he looks familiar. This coworker of mine will say, Jim, oh my gosh, how the heck are you? How's Wally? Is he going to school? Is he back in school? Oh, that's so. Did he get the grant? I'm looking at my coworker thinking, how the fuck do you know all this shit about this? What the fuck? Because we all worked one job with this guy before, but my coworker remembers everything, knows everything about it. And what happens is that coworker gets the gig.
Right.
The guy who sits there going, he looks vaguely familiar, but I don't know who the fuck his kid is or who the fuck his wife is. And I don't fucking care.
Right.
That's the other thing. I don't give a shit if Wally got into school with his grant. Who the fuck care? I got my own problem. So that's the business part of show business that I'm shitty at. Boy, am I shitty at that part. This is again tooting my own horn. What I'm good at is the performing. I am a fucking good actor. I am a really good actor, and I am really good at voice work. I know that. The rest I'm shit at, and you decide. I had choices to make coming up in my career of whether or not I wanted to go a weekend to Vegas with Drew or stay that extra couple of hours at the gig to talk somebody up, to think about the possibility of getting another job. There was never, ever, ever an issue in my mind that I wouldn't go off with Drew. That's what it was. And my career suffered somewhat for it. Now, if you look at my IMDb, I've been working since 1985, so it hasn't suffered too much, but it has suffered in the sense that I'm not a multimillionaire. I could have been. I could have been a multimillionaire had I made show business the priority in my life, and I didn't. Okay, yeah, that's my. Any more voices you like, Negz?
No, not
any
right
more
offhand.
strokes for my ego?
No, I would be interested in chatting again, though. You say you wanted to put a positive light on your mentor, and I think that would be a good conversation to have. To dedicate an hour to that, maybe, if you would be interested.
Oh, I would if I could talk about Charles for an hour, I would love that.
I would love that too.
Also talk about Charles, not only Charles, but the people that really have been an influence in my life and my career in showbiz. I would love that. But Charles, I have to be careful to just not sit and wax poetic. I would love for you to see. It's called Save It for the Stage. I don't know if it's YouTube available. I don't know. I know that it's on DVD, and you probably get it through Amazon. Save It for the Stage. Charles Nelson Riley. He's old. He's not wearing his toupee, and he's telling the story of from his childhood to his. It's not all about game shows. To his successes. It's a wonderful, wonderful piece of work, and it's hysterically funny.
I do have one sort of process question, which is, just keep in mind, I have not seen any of the animations that you've been in. These were all way after my time, so I'm not familiar with it. But if you get a character, let's say that you are playing, I don't know, let's say the character from Jimmy Neutron, all right? Yes. So when they hand you the script, if you're not familiar with the story or their characters or whatever, and they hand you the script and they hand you the drawing, do they also hand you notes and say, this character has this and these personality traits, or this and this way of talking, or this and this way? Because, sometimes, I guess in live animation, they'll be pretty specific about what a character looks like, what the character talks like, walks like, acts like, that kind of thing. Because when you're dealing with an animation, how is it that you can craft a unique voice for an inanimate character?
Oftentimes, everything is brand new to everybody, so they have no idea what this person is or what this creature is going to sound like, or even what attitude it may have. Sometimes they do. Sometimes you'll get a character description that he's the nasty teacher who never was successful at gardening and who hates anybody with a hoe. So you have that much information, and
Relatable.
then, yes, I know you hate them damn hoes. And boy, do you have a lot
that's a whole third podcast, baby.
That's another part of your channel. Boy, I watched one last night that sent me flying, I'll tell you, but we won't go into that here. So sometimes you will indeed get some information on the best is when you get a picture of the drawing of the character, because you can see if, for example, if the character has a really pronounced lower jaw on the drawing, you'll want to take out your jaw when you're doing his voice. So all of a sudden you got to, and if he's dumb, sadly, you make him Southern, because everybody from the South stupid, so you make him Southern with a big old chin, and you do that kind of stuff. You imagine, you use your imagination, you use your creativity, because that's the gifts we are given as creative people. And that's what people don't understand about. I'm going into voiceover because my teacher told me I got a great voice, and so I'm gonna just go tell, "Hi, you want to buy a car?" It isn't just having a unique, wonderful voice. It's having creativity. It's having the ability to use your imagination to create things. It's no different than my precious husband is an oil painter, artist, he just is talented as fuck, and he's gorgeous, and I love him more than life. Did I mention I love him? And it's nothing. It's the same as creating. I am creating in the ethers this being. He is doing it with oil paints and pencils. And is that? Are we talking about? Oh, is that my baby boy? That's my husband.
Hi, Drew.
That's my husband, Drew, and that's our baby Howard. Yeah. So thank you. I love you. What the fuck was I saying? Creating. Oh yes. You create. Thank you. See what I said? He just told me where I was. And what date was that? Thank you. When you create, and it just depends on your medium. And that's so that when you get that script, to answer your question, DC, when you get that script, you glean as much, and you are joyful if they give you a lot of information, because it helps with your creative process. So that's what you get something cold and you do it, and you either get the gig or you don't. Oftentimes you get called back, then you get called back again. Then you get what they call put on a veil, which means that they have first crack at you, but they're not giving you the job yet. And that's all this business part of this business. It just sucks. It just sucks. By the way, whenever I'm watching you, you Mrs. Negz, he'll come past and he'll go, "Oh, DC," and then he'll leave. So I'm surprised that he didn't go, "Oh, DC," and then.
Well, Negz wanted to ask you a question. Yes. Did you want to ask him about Mel Blanc, babes?
Well, I was going to ask who, but you said you just kind of fell into voice acting. So it wasn't something you grew up like, because I know a lot of voice actors, the ones that I've heard interviewed, they talk about Mel Blanc being a huge inspiration for them getting into voice acting. But you're a trained actor who fell into voice acting.
Correct. But I grew up with those cartoons.
Yeah.
And what I didn't know as a kid is I didn't know that one man was doing all of that.
I didn't know either when I was a little girl.
Right.
That's right. When I was a little kid, when I found out that, and I sadly never worked with Mel. I think I crossed him once in a studio, I think. But when I realized, to me, he's the greatest it's ever been. To be able to separate, to create those radically different characters, to be able to do that, It's a remarkable talent. One of the
Mhm.
funniest things I've ever seen. If you have not seen the Jack Benny, and I'm sure you haven't, the Jack Benny Show Christmas show
Mhm.
from 19 whatever, 50 whatever, where Mel Blanc plays a store clerk and Jack Benny comes in to buy a Christmas present, you will get to see Mel Blanc on camera
Mhm.
being the actor that I mentioned. You have to be an actor to do this. You can't just scream like Yosemite Sam unless you've got something going on inside. It isn't a sitting there and
Right.
screaming.
Mhm.
And that takes that ability, that acting ability to get that, you should forgive the expression, to get that up.
Mhm.
And at 66, it gets more difficult and more difficult. Let me tell you something, but that's another hour on the
Mhm.
podcast.
We got a lot of hours coming up.
That's right, a series.
An evening with Vera Charles. So I didn't know that I was being inspired, Negz, but I was being inspired by watching those Looney Tunes growing up, watching cartoons.
Right.
And
Yeah.
when I got into the business, I realized the talents of the business.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. As a kid, I had no idea it was one person either. And honestly, a lot of that information I didn't even find out until the internet became mainstream. And then, because, well, I mean, we probably were told that when we were kids. We don't retain that information. But then
No.
as I got older, I started becoming interested in that stuff. So
There's much more important things to remember when you're a kid, like
Mhm.
where mom put the ice cream, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
right. So
Amazing though. But what live action movies were you in
Well,
that were I'm sorry, go ahead.
that's okay. I did Defending Your Life with
Mhm.
Albert Brooks. I did,
Okay.
although you can't see me, I did Life Stinks with Mel Brooks,
Mhm.
who I happen to be in one of his least successful films, and I hold that to be proud. As my mentor, Charles Nelson Riley, says that he was in the only Neil Simon flop. He was in it. So I was in one of Mel's least successful movies. And then I did Murder, She Wrote. I did little things, television things like that,
Mhm.
and a buttload of on-camera commercials. Tons and tons of, I mean, they're not listed on my IMDb because I would be taking up so much room with all of my credits. And
We don't have enough
wanna
server
I don't
space.
want to be pushy. But I did as much on-camera commercial work as I did voiceover commercial work, which is totally different than animation voiceover
Mhm.
work. I've been busy and very
Mhm.
fortunate to have been busy.
Mhm.
It's basically. So your question was, I don't remember.
You know something? I have this terrible feeling that if I had actually gone to LA last year when I was supposed to, and you and I had met in person, I would have had a very, very difficult time coming back.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Because
That's
I would have
great.
wanted to listen to these stories
Yes.
around the clock, day after day, until I decided that it was enough, which would have been never. Because I love this stuff. I love it. I love listening to these stories.
What I find wonderful about, you should forgive the trite expression about the circle of life, is that that's exactly the way I felt about Charles, and
Mhm.
exactly the way I felt about some other of the people that really, really mattered in my life. I could sit and listen to them tell me about their life and what was and their bit in the business and the things that they went through, until they would ask me to leave. I mean, I could just listen and listen, and to hear someone say that my stories are interesting, it's a wonderful kind of circle. It really is.
Mhm.
And what I feel the best about is that I could talk about Charles and really open some people's eyes. Hopefully some people listening here today, I forgot that there's an audience because I'm sitting here talking to Mrs. NEGZNN, and I didn't
Mhm.
realize, there is an audience. I would hope that you people, wonderful people out there listening, would investigate more than just Charles, Game Show Charles, would look for his Save It for the Stage, his one-man show. I think you'll get, if nothing else, you'll laugh because he's funnier than fuck. He really is funny. And it to honor him makes me feel good. Yeah. And so to your point, conveying stories about that and basically stories of, because I didn't realize once again, my precious husband, I didn't realize how much I could talk about, because when I talk about the business to friends and family or whomever that I'm close to physically, close to intimately, close to whatever, I always am very self-deprecating and always, it's boring. I don't want to talk about it. It doesn't, I don't want to talk about what I don't want to talk about that. I really downplay it. I also tend to talk about the negative, about what went wrong, about the fact that I got a gig. Now I'm going to tell the story that I got a gig with Eagle Snacks, Anheuser-Busch's company, Eagle Snacks, where I was face. And it was going to be a campaign where it was just my face and the guy, I show up at this guy's house. It's the commercials are on YouTube if you want to look them up. Face, Anheuser, Eagle Snacks. And I show up at this guy's house, just the face, and he feeds me Eagle Snacks. Eagle Snacks, what you feed your face. That was the campaign. And I was his face. I was his pet face. Scared you wouldn't believe the letters. Scared the shit out of people. How dare you pour potato chips down a person's, they're going to choke children. Weird. People are fucking, that's another hour, Negz. We got another hour or two about how fucking weird people are. But I got this gig. We did 7 spots. They aired 3. And then Anheuser, this was going to change my life. This really was, because I was starring in this campaign. It was going to be posters in stores. It was going to be billboards. It was huge. Anheuser-Busch sold Eagle Snacks along with their baseball teams, their this and that, because they were having trouble. Eagle Snacks became no more after I got the gig that was going to change my life.
Oh, so no.
Those are the kinds of things that I talk about when I talk about my life in show business. It's the in the story with Mel Brooks and the movie that I did with him and how I auditioned. All those, there's a lot of stories around there. But what Drew said to me is, damn it, if you're talking to them, don't go to the bad and the this and you're nothing and it doesn't matter and it's just voice. So don't just talk about the good things. And I thought, all right, I will. And you guys have brought out the best in me. Isn't that nice? Now let me tell you this shit. You got another hour?
Actually, you know what? We are going to have to bring you back. Okay. We're going to have to bring you back because Mr. Negz has a show coming up. So my love, I have emailed you my phone number. So please call because I want to talk to you for lengthy periods of time. We can swap stories.
When are best chat times? When are best chat times, darling? I'll make sure that you're not on the air reacting to a reaction.
Whenever I'm not on the air and not at night, my time. Okay. But other than that, I'm open. Afternoon, my time works. Whenever Negz is poddling around doing his manly restoration projects. When he's wielding a chainsaw and a hammer and a saw, then I am sitting here. I'm just sitting around, bereft. So I would love to talk to you. All right, my dear. Thank you so much for volunteering to come on. I'm so glad to now finally put a name to the face or a face to the name. This is great. And I will be in touch with you very soon. Thank you again, my love.
My pleasure. Thank you. And it was wonderful meeting you, Negz. Take good care of each other. Love each other. And don't listen to the bullshit because it's a waste of God-blessed time.
You're right.
Agreed.
All right, love. Talk to you later. Bye. Love you. Bye. That was great, Negz. That was a lot of fun.
I learned a lot. It was very interesting. It was. I can't wait to speak again about some of these stories. And I do have a few more questions, but I appreciate a good storyteller, so I want to allot them time to be able to do such.
We'll bring him back.
Yes.
We'll bring him back soon. Okay, so now Negz is going to go live in mere minutes.
Yep, 10 minutes.
10 minutes. All right.
Minutes.
All right, you guys. Thank you all so much for
you.
tuning in today. Thank you for being here. And we will see you later. Bye, guys.